Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
This meeting of the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission will come to order. We will have now, please, an introduction of the members. My name is Justin Smith. I am an attorney here in Sioux Falls with the law firm Woods, Fuller, Schultz & Smith. I have served on the Charter Revision Commission now for 6 years, and my term will be up in 2023.
I'm Ann Hayek, and I believe this is my 3rd year on the commission. I'm a former city council member, county commissioner, legislator, and lawyer, and I'm now retired and serving in this capacity.
Carl Zylstra. I'm also retired. I've lived in Sioux Falls for 9 years. I've been on the commission together with Ann for the last 3 years. In the interim, I've served on the absentee ballot task force for Minnehaha County and am eager to get started on this group again. I'm a retired university president.
I am Catherine Deckinga, and I'm an architect in Sioux Falls at JLG Architects. And this is my 1st year on the board, so I'm excited to serve alongside you all.
My name is Larry Long. I am retired from the Second Circuit bench, where I served from 2009 until about 3 years ago. And prior to that time, I was the Attorney General for South Dakota for about 6.5 years. And prior to that time, I was the Chief Deputy in the Attorney General's office for 12 years. And prior to that time, I was the State's Attorney in Bennett County, which is about 300 miles west of here, for about 18 years. So, and I think I have Justice Severson to blame for my attendance here today. So I'll get even with him eventually.
Stacy, if you want to switch places with me, we can then be in ascending order to legal expertise, if we do it in that order. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm definitely looking forward to working with Larry and Catherine. I appreciate your willingness to serve. So I am the prior chair of the Charter Revision Commission, and in that capacity, I will be overseeing the first part of this meeting, and then we'll turn in a moment to electing our chair and vice chair for the next 7 months, thereabout, who will take us through our recommendations for revisions to the charter for 2022 and that election. But in the meantime, just a little bit of background information, if you'll permit me for just a moment. So, and I gave a similar kind of overview 2 years ago. There are 3 methods provided in Article 8 of the Sioux Falls Charter by which the charter may be amended. First, by ordinance of the City Council, except they are limited under our charter that there are 6 sections in Article 3, which still require an election to take place. By report of the Charter Revision Commission is the second, which still requires approval of a majority of the voters at an election, or 3, by petition of 5% of the registered voters to place an amendment on the ballot. This is the direct democracy form that we have here in Sioux Falls to allow the citizens to initiate literally any amendment that they would propose to the charter, assuming, of course, I would suppose that it is not somehow unconstitutional or otherwise illegal, but that allows them a method of direct democracy that may not be provided by the option for the City Council or for the Charter Revision Commission. So all these methods still require approval by a majority of the voters in a municipal election. We can place them on the ballot here, the City Council, or by petition, but the citizens still have to approve it. So looking at Section 8.01C of the Charter, the City Council is empowered to create a Charter Revision Commission by ordinance, which the Council has done at Chapter 32 of the Code of Ordinances. Now, Mr. Koister and I have talked about this beforehand, but also I should let you know that this has been discussed many times at prior meetings. Just a couple of things under the Chapter 32 of the ordinances. The commission is an advisory commission. It's stated as such in the enabling ordinance. The commission is not required to deliver a report proposing amendments to the charter. In fact, the ordinance is permissive. If the commission delivers such a report, it must be approved by at least 4 of the 5 members of the commission according to that ordinance. Any member of the public may recommend revisions to the charter for consideration by the commission. And the way we have handled our meetings for the last 2 to 4 years has been exactly that. Any member of the public, including any public official in Sioux Falls, so long as they are a registered voter in the Sioux Falls area or the resident of the Sioux Falls area, can come to this body and at the very least as part of the public input can propose amendments to the charter. The commission must hold at least 1 public meeting per year to receive such recommendations, and the commission is charged with taking action on any matters before it related to proposed revisions to the charter. So the commission must take action only on matters that are actually before the commission and related to charter amendments. Even then, there still has to be a supermajority to adopt them. So whether a recommended revision to the charter comes from the public or an elected official or even a member of this commission, the body is not required to put that item into its report, and a report is not even required. So unless a recommended revision is formally proposed, considered, and approved by a supermajority, it doesn't go to the voters for their consideration. So all of this is true without regard to the ensuing election and what may or may not happen. The commission will do its assigned duty and then let the voters decide on the matter. Issues may be raised for investigation and consideration by this commission without a formal proposed revision to the charter, provided the commission has sufficient time and resources to permit the necessary investigation and consideration of the issues and potential amendments to the charter. So, all of this makes clear that this commission is not simply a rubber stamp for anything that will come before this commission as proposed recommendation for revision to the charter, nor is this something where we only have the ability to accept or reject amendments to the charter based on legal grounds. In other words, there's been some suggestion that in the past this commission should simply just look at whether or not the proposed revision is legal under the charter, and if so, we have to put it on the ballot. That is not what the ordinances enabling this body talk about. All that being said, as I indicated, this body has tried to handle things for the last 2 years in a way that is very receptive and open and transparent to the public, where we literally accept for consideration any proposal that is made. For the last 2 years, we placed more of an emphasis in terms of discussion and consideration on those items that come before the commission proposed with red line examples of where the changes would be made to the charter if the amendment were adopted. But otherwise, we accept all considerations, all items for consideration, and then have a full and fair discussion of every single proposal that comes forward. It would be my preference, whether as a member or chair or otherwise, that we follow that same plan here for the next 6 months so that the public feels that they're fully involved and knows they're fully involved in this process. We are just a volunteer board, which is here to serve the public, essentially. So with that, I appreciate your time. Any comments from my fellow commissioners along those same lines? Particularly from Ann or Carl, who lived through this 2 years ago.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Do I, because I'm flipping through this and my memory from 15 months ago when last we met is fading. The 4 required affirmative votes is by enabling ordinance or by internal rule of the committee?
Thank you for the question. Looking at 32.002, duties in public meetings under our Code of Ordinances. The commission may deliver a report to the city election authorities framing and proposing amendments to the city home rule charter that is approved by at least 4 commission members. So yes, that is in the actual ordinance itself from the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Hack.
one of the questions that has come forward a few times, and I think it's important that we clarify early on, is that we are a charter commission for this particular charter that was approved by the voters in 1994. And it is a form of government that the voters brought petition, voted on, and agreed to. It is my understanding that we do not have the authority to go beyond the bounds to essentially change the form of government that we currently have, i.e. City manager, which was, I know at that time, considered. It's my understanding that we can only work within the parameters of the charter that we have in front of us, and that if anyone wants to change the, quote, form of government, they would then go through the process as previously done, getting the petition signed, bringing it to the voters at that time. So I guess I want to kind of short-circuit some issues that I know people have talked about, changing the form of government, and I don't believe that is within our abilities or our structured duties. And maybe Stacy, you have a comment there.
Yeah, I do have a comment, and I would agree that this commission does not have that authority, and I would look no further than the first line of the charter itself, section 8.01. And what it states is amendments to this charter may be framed and proposed under the following circumstances, one of which is this body. And so I am not aware, as a matter of law, of any definition of amendment that would allow it to, in effect, substitute a new form of government. That being said, even when you look to the enabling ordinances 32.001, and it identifies this commission as a charter revision commission, even as we sit here, well, we can talk all day about amendment versus revision, but under no circumstances does it mean you could replace the form of government. And certainly as a city attorney, that is my position and my opinion in the event this commission would attempt to do that.
Thank you.
Not that I expect it would.
I appreciate the clarification.
I would just add one more comment. So I think it goes without saying that given the fact that the ordinance has been crafted to require a supermajority approval of anything before it goes on the ballot by this commission's proposal, I think it should be clear then that what is coming out of this body should carry great weight in terms of, should at least be construed as a formal recommendation by this commission. And therefore, I think it should also go without saying that we want to make sure that what comes out of here and goes on the ballot, that the people know this came from the Charter Revision Commission. They considered it seriously. It took a supermajority to put it on the ballot, and therefore, it does carry their stamp of approval. I don't think this can be read to indicate that we're just a pass-through, that it should go on automatically. So, any further comments? Commissioner Zylstra.
Along the same lines as Commissioner Hayek has just mentioned, I think it's important for the public to understand that, no, we are not a pass-through group on the one hand, but nor are we a roadblock group, because as you've pointed out, Mr. Chair, you can go the direct petition or the direct, petition route and bring anything you want, provided it's within the Constitution of the state, et cetera. So we can't block anybody either. We aren't simply going to pass through, but nor are we a roadblock to keep ideas from moving forward.
Thank you. Good point. Mr. Quistra?
If you can finish this agenda item, then I have a comment or two
Okay.
after everyone has had a chance to.
Further comments? All right, you have the floor, Mr. Quistra.
All right, thank you. I just want to say, as we kick off this series of meetings, on behalf of the City of Sioux Falls, both welcome to our new members and thank you for your service on this commission. As I look at the group here, I'm just astonished at the qualifications and the high quality of people that we have. And so, on behalf of the mayor and the council, we are just delighted to have each of you. And I mentioned this last year, and I'll mention it again. Do not be deceived by the fact that there aren't really many members of the public here. And I don't know how many people are watching, but this is an enormously consequential commission. This is obviously goes right to the heart of the foundational document of our form of government, and one that, in the event that proposals to amend that are brought forward, it's very important to have not only a rigorous process, but just a process that the members of the public can really have confidence in. And so we're really excited to have all of you, and it just is very exciting for the City of Sioux Falls to have you on this commission. So thank you. And oh, by the way, And on behalf of this side of the dais, us full-timers, please know that as a staff, we are here to support you, both during these meetings, but even not during these meetings. If you have questions on an individual basis, and in any respect, we're here to help. I'd like to introduce Carrie Hansel here, who's our paralegal in the city attorney's office, and she is the straw that stirs the drink around here. She's been doing this for a while, and she keeps me on my toes, gets my binder ready even when I forget to bring it over. And I think you all know Tom Greco, our city clerk, who maintains this building and law and order herein. So very glad to help you guys, and again, welcome aboard. So here we go.
Well, for those who don't know, I think for Catherine and Larry, you'll learn pretty quickly that we've got a fantastic group of staff at the City of Sioux Falls. They're very great, very responsive, and very helpful. And this volunteer board could certainly not move forward without their work, so thank them for their service. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, number 3, election of chair and vice chair. So at this time, the chair would entertain nominations for a chair and or a vice chair from the other commission members.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Hayek.
I would like to nominate you, Justin, to continue in the chair position for the next year.
All right, we have a motion.
Supported.
We have a nomination and a second. Are there further nominations for chair of the Charter Revision Commission? Okay. Seeing none, then, the motion is nomination and approval of Justin Smith as chair of the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. For purposes of record keeping, Tom, do you prefer that we do roll call vote for these, or do you want, is voice vote fine?
I think voice vote's fine.
Thank you. Moving on to nomination of a vice chair for the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission. Is there a motion from the floor?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Zylstra.
I would nominate, I have to talk today. I would nominate as vice chair Commissioner Ann Hayek.
We've had a nomination of, thank you. So we have a nomination and a second for Ann Hayek for the position of vice chair of the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission. Is there any discussion on that motion? Apologize, I should have done the same thing for me. Seems like I railroaded that through. If you want discussion on that, you're really welcome to. I apologize. Seeing no discussion, the motion on the floor is the approval of Ann Hayek as vice chair of the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission. Those members in favor, please vote aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. So we now have a chair and vice chair for the next 6 months. Oh, I will not. All right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda will be approval of the minutes from our last meeting of February 3, 2020.
I would move approval.
There's a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting of February 3, 2020. Is there a second?
I would second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Commissioner Hayek, second by Commissioner Dekenga to approve our minutes from February 3, 2020. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Turning to new business. The first item on the agenda is outline of commission meeting timeline. Do you want to hear from our city staff on that one, or is that something you fine folks would like us to handle?
You know, yeah. So as a matter of practice, what the Charter Revision Commission has done in the past is revisited the 9 sections of of the city charter, and there is discretion in what is the absence of any bylaws for this commission as to what approach the commission would like to take in revisiting those. And if memory serves, did we work our way backwards last year? So you bite them off in particular chunks, and And last year, they actually started in Section 9 and worked their way towards Section 1. And so obviously, it's your discretion how you choose to attack that. With the meetings that you have, the requirements of this commission are relatively low in the sense of duties for what you have to do. But just out of due diligence, that's historically what's been done. And so it's within your discretion to discuss and determine and schedules, of course, as a volunteer board, schedules that are aligned with yours and whatever pace you believe is appropriate in the event you decide to review them in what particular order.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
are
Hack?
we talking a monthly meeting then or more frequently?
Well, the requirement is to meet once a year, and so I don't know that we were on a strict monthly schedule last year. If memory serves, it was almost a 6 weeks to.
We started in June, but I think last time you started in June, but then you scheduled throughout the fall and winter. I think you almost did just about once a month the last time, but you focused on 3 sections at each meeting, and then toward November and December, you started narrowing in on those issues that you wanted to revisit again, so.
And that was my recollection, so that as we get through the entire charter, we can kind of work backwards. How many months do we have? How long is the time? Also, I think, and you'll probably say this, Mr. Chair, in regard to the individuals who want to bring items to us, what requirements they have, and I'll let you address that, but I would suggest that we set out kind of a framework that we need to look through these particular items. We have 9, but some of them are shorter and not as needy as others. So as we go, thank you.
And I'll just offer as a procedural matter, as Mr. Koister indicated, really this body does not have a formal set of bylaws, so our procedural rules are at our discretion. While we do have the precedent that in the past we have handled 3 articles of the charter at each one of our meetings, and we have invited public input, preferably on any of those 3 articles for consideration at that meeting. We have also opened it up for offering of amendments as to any sections that have been considered at the prior meetings. We do not have to follow that schedule. We can come to this tabula rasa, or we can use that precedent and kind of adopt it going forward. So if there's any further thoughts from the members of the commission on ideas for how we could handle things, I will tell you that if this meeting is for August and we meet September, October, November, that's 3 articles each for those months, leaving December for discussion and consideration and vote on any remaining items if we want to get it done before December 31. Now, we can go out into January. What is the deadline, Tom, for submission by this commission to the city clerk for consideration on the ballot?
It would have to, so the deadline would be February 11th, which is a Friday, so that, for all intents and purposes, means submitting to the council the Tuesday prior to that.
So with that timeline in mind, we could technically go out into January for a final meeting to adopt. The precedent that we followed last year is if there were items on which particular members of the commission had stronger feelings in advance of the final meeting, we considered and voted on those items in advance.
Mr. Chairman, I would speak in favor of what you're suggesting. I noticed, looking at our agenda for last round, we met 5 times in 2019. Now, it's going to be hard for us to meet, well, we can do September, October, November, and December, as you said, but we had 5 working sessions. And so we have 4 working sessions left. We could go into January, and I would just also observe, we do have to meet in 2022, and that would provide us the opportunity, without doing like we did in the last round of having a special, almost pro forma meeting, although we had public input, so anyone could have spoken. But I think you've suggested a good time frame.
And
Mr. Hayek.
One of the issues that we need to look at in regard to the January meeting is that our wonderful chairperson tends to spend the session in Pier. Consequently, that January meeting would have to occur within the first week prior to his going out there. So we want to kind of back it up and make sure that we get things taken care of, because since we need 4 voting members, to have any one of us missing at that time becomes kind of crucial. So I would suggest, as you've said, that we start, I don't care if we go backward or forward, that in our September meeting, we do Articles 1, 2, 3, October 4, 5, 6, November 7, 8, 9, and December, catch whatever. And then having that information available for the public, they can bring forward those issues that fall within those particular parameters of the charter at that time. So they have a bit of notice right now. So that would be my suggestion.
One thing I will mention, during our last round of meetings in 2019, we did adopt a policy that any member of this commission could attend meetings telephonically. So if necessary, we could schedule something even after the legislative session began in January. I would then, however, rely on my vice chair to run that meeting while I appeared telephonically. But so that's one other thing to consider. If there's no objection, I would say that, that we would allow participation telephonically of members of the Charter Commission. Has the city, for its volunteer boards like this one, enabled some kind of Zoom or other online participation instead of telephonic?
Mr. Chair, in here, it's easier to do it telephonic. We can set it up so that you can view, if you're on the other end, you can view the meeting in here, but we can generally view you.
Anything that can save the public from having to see my face one extra time would be preferable, I'm sure. That's right. So are there any further comments on kind of the timeline we will be looking at adopting and the proposed structure for how to handle submission by the public and consideration of items? Okay, in that case, just for formality's sake, I would entertain a motion to adopt a commission meeting timeline and general structure for proposal and consideration of items.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Long, seconded by Commissioner Hayek. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the previously discussed timeline and structure, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, consideration of process for proposal of recommendations for charter amendments by commission members, city officials, and the public. I think we've addressed that item. But is there discussion from the commission? Ground rules of commission votes, majority versus supermajority, is the next item on our agenda. I'm not sure if in the past, before the ordinances were amended, there was not a supermajority requirement. Maybe this is a holdover item on the agenda, but is there something we need to consider on this item?
No, I think that may have been in place, from a prior discussion about that, but the ordinance sets that forth. So, so we're good.
Looking at the ordinance itself, it was amended in 2018, so hopefully, while I was serving on the commission, nothing was done that prompted the city council to make that change, but so we now turn to discussion of future meeting dates. Are we in a position today to set the date of our next meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask you if you intend again this year to lead us in the informal practice of not utilizing cell phones except when we have to do things like this.
I had forgotten about that, but yes, I had mine in the drawer down here. I think that's a wise policy in light of issues that have happened in other bodies, not in Sioux Falls, but across the state, that have drawn consternation from some members of the public that perhaps there was discussion going on among the members of the commission that wasn't being discussed openly.
So with your permission, may I turn mine on?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
So let the record show we are pulling our cell phones out in order to get our calendars.
Mr. Chair, I could pop a calendar on the screen for everyone, if you want to look at that, and you'll see the availability of Carnegie. This is September.
We have historically met on Wednesdays at 4, but that's not to say that we can't choose some other date and time as well.
We're looking at the 8th of September.
I am available Wednesday, September 8 at 4 p.m. Any objection? Okay. Seeing none, I think we can set that one. Do we want to set each of our meetings for October, November, and December as well, or wait until our next meeting?
I would prefer to set them, and then if we need to change, but that way we've got them on our calendar. And
It looks like the 6th of October, you've got something in here at 6 p.m.? October 13,
Mr. Chairman, I'm not available either the 13th or the 20th, depending on international travel restrictions at that time.
would it be cutting things too close for the city if we set the meeting on the 6th at 4 p.m.?
No, it was done one time last year. You would be under a time constraint of 5:30.
I don't know that we've ever had a meeting of this commission that's lasted longer than an hour and 45 minutes, but, okay, if the 6th works for everyone,
Are we going with the 4 p.m. time for all of these? Okay.
yep, unless there's an objection. November. November 3rd. What is the preference from the group, the 3rd or the 10th, so that we don't coincide with the 6 p.m. meeting on the 3rd?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest the 10th.
Unless there's an objection, we'll set it on the 10th. December 8th. All right. It's a little far out, but January 5?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I ask this out of complete ignorance. If there are proposals that we need to actually work on, I assume those will come up in January after we've had the prior 3 meetings to consider. Is that likely? I mean, is that the likely process, assuming we get something that is going to require us
The January
invest
meeting,
some time?
pardon me, Commissioner Long.
No.
The January meeting will be for final consideration of any items that remain open on this commission's docket at that meeting. However, there's nothing that bars us from considering and voting on any proposals made at any of the meetings, prior to that.
Okay.
So
We could well have resolved a bunch of that prior to January. Okay, got it.
and we did that last 2 years ago. We resolved a number of them ahead of time.
Okay.
And I think the way we would ask the city clerk and the city attorney's office to handle this is to please help keep us on the ball the way you did 2 years ago with an ongoing spreadsheet that will contain, perfect. She's way ahead of me as usual. We will reflect on a spreadsheet that will be part of the agenda packet for every meeting, each of the active proposals that, and the fate of each of those proposals if they've been voted on between now and January. Ideally, again, we did have some folks come forward 2 years ago that provided what I would describe as rough concepts that they would like to see changed in the charter without citing to specific sections of the charter that would need to be amended for that proposal. We still received it, we still considered it, and working with the Attorney General's, working with the City Attorney's Office, we found,
Big difference.
yes, we've got some representation a little bit from both. We found ways that we could write those proposals into the charter should they be adopted, and that was part of the consideration and discussion. Commissioner Hayek.
Yeah, if for just a little clarification too, particularly for newer members, we had found that people were bringing ideas that they wanted implemented into the charter. And as a way of explaining to them, we are only a charter revision commission. So we required that the individuals bringing it would actually cite the specific part of the charter, the article and section, that they were wanting to see some revision or some changes made to. And so once we publish our schedule, it's hopeful that those individuals that have issues that fall within that particular guideline would bring those forward at that time. And of course, there are always strands that we would find, but we were finding some really interesting general proposals and people that would come and bring slide presentations and long dissertations. And then we would ask them, what is it that you would like changed? And they didn't know. So it's something that if the public will understand that we deal with the charter and will revise and bring specifically, it's certainly something we do want to address. And I think sometimes they came to us where they'd really gotten into the wrong forum.
And I'll just briefly address a comment made by Commissioner Zalster earlier. This commission truly welcomes any proposals that are made. To Commissioner Hayek's point, it's going to help this commission do its job better, faster, and easier if the proposals that come forward are like some of the ones we saw 2 years ago, which differ from the ones Commissioner Hayek is describing. We had proposals where the people came forward with very detailed, comprehensive packets that included red line versions of the charter and showed exactly how they would propose to amend it. It makes our consideration process, the process of advice given to us by the City Attorney's Office and otherwise much, much easier.
And thank you for saying that, because we did appreciate there were those individuals who had done their homework, who knew exactly what they wanted and were very, very good with the information and helpful. Taught us a lot, and we appreciate that, and I think welcome it.
Further discussion? All right, let's turn to the next item on the agenda, public input. Would any member of the public like to come forward and offer input? I suppose we could consider our inaugural proposals for recommendations for amendments to the charter. Mr. Hayek.
So just backing up a little bit, on our meeting on September 8th, the next meeting date, are we going to look at then sections, the Articles 1, 2, and 3? Thank you.
Seeing no public input, we will turn to the next item on our agenda. Is there before I wrap up, any further comments from members of the commission about anything we've discussed today? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hayek, seconded by Commissioner Long, that we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.